up, everybody? I am back with another cooking video, and today we are going to be making one of my favorites. My mom used to make this for me when I was sick, when I wasn't sick. It's one of those you make it on a Sunday night, you have enough leftovers to last you well into the week, and this is a classic home kind of food, home food for Chinese families, and this is congee, or Joke call it porridge, Chinese porridge. It's a rice-based goop. Actually, it's really flavorful. It's very high in nutrients, I would say. Just like chicken noodle soup, the base of this is chicken broth. There's a couple secrets to this dish that I think makes it pop, and I have a few secrets I want to share with you that I've learned from my mom. She makes the best chicken congee, and I don't think I have mastered this dish the way she has yet. There's nothing like going home and having her make it for me. But I'll try my best to replicate the recipe, and I'm here to share it with you guys. So first up, you're gonna start with a whole chicken. So what I like to do is I chop it up into pieces, and we're gonna take this chicken and place it into a stock pot with about 3 liters of water. Now this dish takes a while to make, about 3 hours. 2 hours for the chicken broth, and then another hour for the actual congee part. So once you have the chicken in the water, bring it to a boil, and then once it's up to a boil, you wanna let it simmer for 2 whole hours. Now you can ramp this up with some extra flavors, like you can throw some green onions in to the broth, or some ginger slices into the broth, and it'll give it some extra layers of flavor if you like. For me, the simpler the better for this dish. I don't wanna overwhelm it with too much flavors. I like how simple it is. Now while your chicken broth is simmering, there's gonna be a lot of that gunk that floats to the top, the impurities as they call it. Now what you're gonna wanna do is skim out all the impurities and all the fat that's floating to the top as it simmers. If you don't, you're gonna have a very oily joke, which is not that fun to eat. And also scooping out the impurities gives the joke a cleaner presence. Traditionally, joke is done with white rice, and you want your joke to be very clean looking. But the chicken broth, if you don't clear out the impurities as they float to the top, it'll definitely give it a much dirtier look. So if you care about presentation, which I feel like this day and age, thanks to Instagram and YouTube and a bunch of social media, presentation is very key for food now. Okay, so now while you're making this chicken broth, while it's simmering, we're gonna wanna get started on the rice and the chicken meat. Both these things we're gonna marinate separately. Now with the rice, you're thinking, wait, hold on, marinating rice? Yes, there's a way to flavor this rice, and this is definitely the secret. And the big secret to marinating the rice here is using century egg, AKA 1,000-year-old egg, AKA 100-year-old egg. It's that black preserved egg that most people find very unappetizing. It looks terrible, smells terrible, and in fact it's taste-wise, it's also an acquired taste if you're eating it whole. So what you're gonna do with the rice is take a separate pot now. We're gonna put about 2/3 cup of rice into this, and make sure we wash the rice. And then from there, we're gonna take the century egg, we're gonna peel it and drop the whole egg into the pot of rice. The next part's gonna be the fun part. We're gonna mush the egg into the rice. And this is the big secret to making the best congee in the world. With the preserved egg, there is a lot of, I actually don't even know what kind of chemicals that are in there. It definitely smells like ammonia or something, I don't know. Whatever is in this preserved egg, when mushed into the rice and marinated into the rice, it brings out the best rice flavor ever. And as you marinate, as you squeeze it into the rice grains, there's a reaction in the rice. The rice starts to puff up a little bit. So whatever chemical reaction is happening in this rice with the preserved egg, it adds so much flavor to the congee. And then we're gonna let that sit for about 30 minutes to an hour and let the flavors meld together and get that rice nice and marinated. And also we're gonna need to marinate the chicken. Now you can choose between white meat or dark meat, thighs or breast. Personally, I like to do dark meat because I find dark meat a lot more flavorful. It's a different kind of texture than white meat, yes, but I do think dark meat has a lot more flavor, so I personally choose dark meat. But if you're on a health conscious thing, or you just like the texture of white meat, by all means, use white meat. I've gotten 4 thighs, and I'm gonna cut it up into little slices of chicken pieces. I like to also get rid of as much of the fat as possible. so it's a leaner dish. And now once you have it all added to a bowl, we're gonna add 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, 1 teaspoon of white pepper, 1 tablespoon of rice wine, and 1 teaspoon of sesame oil. And then add a pinch of salt as well. Optionally, you can also add in diced ginger or diced garlic to your marinade. But like I said, I like to keep mine really simple. So now once you have all the stuff added in, go ahead and do the same process. We're gonna take our hands and we're gonna squeeze the crap out of the chicken pieces and get the marinade and the flavors worked in together. So once the marinade is worked in, go ahead and let the chicken sit for about an hour. And at this point, we've done most of the work already. It's a super simple recipe. All right, so fast forward, we are now ready to combine all the ingredients together, and we are going to toast the rice a little bit. And after about a minute or 2, we're gonna pour in our chicken broth. Now, an easy way to pour in the chicken broth is I take out all the chicken pieces, the bones, take it all out, and so you can have a clean pour of your chicken broth. Homemade chicken broth. Now, this is the biggest difference between good congee and just kind of generic congee is you have to make your own chicken broth. Making your own chicken broth is another way of really making this dish shine and pop. So you pour all the chicken broth into the rice and give it a stir. Make sure none of the rice pieces stick at the bottom, because that's one thing about making juk is you have to keep it moving sometimes to prevent the bottom from burning. Go ahead and close the lid, and we're gonna bring this to a boil. And once it's at a boil, we're gonna let it simmer for a full hour, and just let that rice cook and soften. We want to get it to that goopy texture, like oatmeal. As we're nearing the end of the hour, I like to add in a full tablespoon of salt to the congee. All right, so after our full hour of cooking, go ahead and turn off the stove. And this part is another trick that I have, is to cook the marinated chicken in the residual heat inside that big pot of congee. So this is my technique. This is not something you have to do. You can definitely, if you feel more comfortable keeping the stove on with the fire and putting in the chicken meat and having the chicken cook with full simmer mode, by all means, definitely go ahead and do that. But if you want cooked just right, not overcooked chicken, and it's tender and flavorful and it keeps its own juices, you wanna let that chicken cook in the residual heat. I tell you, it's gonna be the juiciest, most tender chicken you'll have in congee. Otherwise, when it boils in, to me, the chicken gets kind of rough. I'm not a big fan of rough chicken meat. So during this 15 minutes of residual heat cooking of the chicken, I like to bring out some green onions, some ginger, and what I like to do is to dice the green onions and shred the ginger. And this will act as both our garnish and as a nice fresh aromatic to our juk. Let's go ahead and plate our congee in a bowl. And what you are looking for and what you want to relish is this oatmeal texture. Definitely looks like home food. It's not meant to look amazing, Instagram ready or anything, but it is so good, trust me. If it's raining, if it's cold outside, congee is my go-to like comfort food. So once you have it in a bowl, I like to top it off with the ginger and the green onions. And voila, that is Mom's Congee. Alright guys, I hope you guys liked this video. It's one of my favorite home dishes to make, and I hope you guys give it a try, especially if you're under the weather or it's cold outside. This is one of the best dishes. This is the Chinese chicken noodle soup, so full of flavor, full of good stuff for your health. So like always, thanks for watching. Make sure to comment down below what you'd like to see me make next, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks.